Humanity has always had one common enemy: death. It is the end of the story, the final silence. We fear it so much that we have spent our entire history inventing religions, philosophies, and technologies to delay it. But what if we actually won? Let's imagine a scenario where we flip a universal switch and death simply stops. No more decay, no more endings. At first glance, this sounds like paradise. We would finally have time to learn every language, read every book, and explore the stars. But if you look closer at the physics and biology of our reality, a world without death isn't a dream. It is a very specific kind of nightmare. If death disappeared, life as we know it would break down almost immediately. To understand why immortality is a problem, we have to look at what life actually is. Physicist Erwin Schrödinger defined life as something that avoids decay into disorder and equilibrium. The universe naturally wants to become chaotic. Your download folder gets messy, your coffee gets cold. Life is the exception. By investing energy, you create order. If death disappeared, we would essentially be cheating the fundamental laws of the universe. We would stop decaying, but this creates a paradox. We are made of dead matter, atoms and molecules moved by the laws of physics. If this matter suddenly refused to break down, the cycle of energy would freeze. We would become static entities in a dynamic universe, violating the delicate balance of order and chaos that allows biology to function. We wouldn't just be alive, we would be physical anomalies. Let's zoom in. Every living thing on this planet is made of cells. Basically, a cell is just a protein-based robot too small to feel or experience anything. In a single cell, every second, several million chemical reactions take place. It is like driving a car at 100 kilometers per hour while constantly rebuilding every single part of it with stuff you collect from the street. Usually when this car breaks down, the cell dies. But in our new world, the machinery never stops. Without the release valve of death, errors in our genetic code would pile up, but the system would keep running. We would not stay young and beautiful forever. Instead, our bodies would likely become growing, shifting landscapes of biological matter, tumors that never terminate, tissues that expand endlessly. We would be trapped in vessels that are constantly rebuilding, but never refreshing, becoming prisoners of our own cellular success. And it's not just us. Remember, life is just a lot of stuff that carries genetic information around. There are countless bacteria and 225 million cubic meters of viruses on Earth right now. These entities don't seem to care what we think of them. Their only goal is to replicate. In a world with death, nature limits their numbers. In a world without it, they would consume the planet in days. Bacteria divide exponentially. Without death to cull the herd, the surface of the Earth would be buried under a literal ocean of microbial slime. The stuff of life, the carbon, nitrogen, and water, would be locked away in living cages, unable to be recycled. The ecosystem would crash, not because things are dying, but because the planet would physically run out of room for the sheer volume of living matter. Perhaps the biggest tragedy would be the loss of our future. Life is a process of refinement. The goal is to produce new entities, specifically through DNA. Living things are subject to evolution, and the DNA that develops the best living thing stays in the game. But evolution requires death. It requires the old version to step aside so the new version can thrive. If nothing dies, the best version never wins because the old version never leaves. We would be stuck with the current iteration of life forever. No adaptation, no improvement. We would simply be a stagnant archive of genetic information, frozen in time. By solving death, we would have accidentally solved ourselves out of existence. This scenario forces us to ask a difficult question. Is life fundamentally different from dead stuff? We used to think there was something magical about us, some non-physical element. But science tells us that no part of a cell is alive. Everything is dead matter moved by the laws of the universe. Take mitochondria, for example. They were once free-living bacteria that entered a partnership with our cells. They traded their own independent life for the survival of their DNA. In a way, they are already dead things that help us live. If we remove death, we blur this line completely. If everything persists forever, the distinction between a rock and a human, or a virus and a crystal, becomes meaningless. If we never die, were we ever truly alive in the first place? Finally, we must face the timeline of the universe. Even if we survive the biological chaos, the universe itself is changing. Stars will die. The sun will eventually expand. In a normal reality, we would be long gone. But in this deathless reality, we are indestructible. Imagine drifting in the void of space, billions of years from now, after the heat death of the universe. No light, no heat, just consciousness trapped in eternal cold. We would become observers of an empty cosmos, unable to participate, unable to change, and most terrifyingly, unable to leave. We would realize too late that death was not a punishment, but a mercy, a necessary exit from the stage. So, is death an irrelevant question? Perhaps not. It turns out that the temporary nature of our existence is exactly what gives it value. The fact that we are complex arrangements of dead matter that can briefly think, feel, and ask questions is a miracle. We don't have any answers for you, but maybe we don't need to fear the end. It is the very thing that defines the beginning. After all, it's thinking about questions like this that makes us feel alive.